My name is Joan Barrett, and I'm a member of the Ralston Creek co-housing community in Arvada, Colorado. That's in a suburb west of Denver. Ralston Creek co-housing is a forming community that is committed to living light on the planet and building warm, caring relationships. We're looking for a few more members who might be interested in joining us and having a sustainable solar community. You can learn about us on our website at ralstoncreekcohousing.org. My colleague Sue Seekoff is joining us, and she's managing the technology and monitoring the chat. So I'll introduce our guest just in a minute, but first take a minute to share this live video with your friends on Facebook or in your groups right now. While you do that, I'll introduce Suzanne Asaff Blankenship, who will share her tips and guidance on helping you navigate elder care in this challenging time with COVID. Suzanne's experience with elder care came the hard way by doing it. She is in her second decade of elder care, and she's shared lots of stories and found solutions with others. Today, she'll be sharing some of those with us. She's the author of How to Take Care of Old People Without Losing Your Marbles. So choices for our loved ones can be hard and often are made under pressure of time and emergency situations. So Suzanne will guide us through some of these challenges with special attention on how it might look different with COVID. We invite you to listen to Suzanne as she shares her insights and tips. And once she's done with her presentation, we'll entertain questions and comments. Thanks. Suzanne, you're on.
Well, thank you so much, Joan, and thanks so much to Ralston Creek Co-Housing for hosting this today. I'm so excited to be with you. And it's just, I love that Ralston Creek has all these wonderful ideas about things to share. They're just great about staying on top of really interesting topics. And I'm just thankful and grateful and excited to be here. So hi, everybody. I'm Suzanne Asaff Blankenship, and I am the author of this book, How to Take Care of Old People Without Losing Your Marbles. And I have a few marbles left, just a few, and I'm going to share what I have found in my 2 decades of elder care with you today, with the interesting overlay of 2020 and COVID-19. It seems as though in today's environment, you know, elder care is really challenging in any given day. But when you have the overlay of elder care and COVID, you really have got things that seem to be moving in 2 opposite directions. You've got the elder care where you're trying to care for your elders, and you've got the COVID, which you're trying to make sure you don't see them and you don't get near them and you protect them from anything that would expose them to the virus. So you've got things really pulling across the spectrum. And I thought that today we might talk about ways that we can weave that braid a little more effectively. So I'm going to start with an analogy. And I don't know if you guys remember those old vintage vanity chairs. And that's the kind of analogy I'm going to start with. I was going to think of a 3-legged stool, but I really like the idea of my mom's old vanity stool. So in the vanity stool, you have the base, and then you have the seat, and then you have the thing that makes it go round and round and round. So let's talk about the base. In the base, I'd like to present my ideas about paperwork. Now, I know paperwork, you're thinking, I don't want to talk about paperwork. Don't like the paperwork. It's true, but you know, it's critical. Think of it like a hall pass when you need to get somewhere, or a key to a door that you need to unlock. The paperwork that is important in elder care gives you permission to do things that you need to do on behalf of your elder. So one of those things is power of attorney. Now, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a legal scholar, so don't take any of this in that vein, but I am going to share with you the importance of power of attorney and what it is. A power of attorney is a legal document that allows you to speak on behalf of your elder, to do things on behalf of your elder, to conduct affairs on behalf of your elder, and to make decisions on their behalf. The power of attorney types are 2. One is the durable power of attorney for financial management. And that's basically a financial affairs, business affairs permission slip. It allows you to negotiate on their behalf or to conduct business, to write, to sign a contract, to sell something. If you needed to sell your parents' house or something that you wanted to do business-wise, this is what you would need. Now, it allows you to do that with or without them. So powers of attorney can help you not only speak on behalf of your elder when they're not there, it can help you augment their voice if perhaps it's not being heard. So that leads me to the second type of power of attorney, and that's a medical power of attorney. So there's a power of attorney for financial management, and there's a medical power of attorney. The medical power of attorney allows you to make care decisions for them. It allows you to see their medical records, to visit with the doctor on their behalf, to seek medical care on their behalf. And just think about times when maybe you've taken them to the doctor or you're on a telehealth visit with them and they say something like, you know, I need this looked at, or I'm suffering from this. And maybe you're not thinking that they're being heard. So a power of attorney really would allow you to call the doctor afterwards, or really in the meeting say, I'm not sure you're hearing what they're saying. They really need to be heard, and they need to be, this particular issue needs to be addressed. So you could call the doctor's office afterwards. You could send a fax and say, I'd like a visit summary, all kinds of things you can do with a medical power of attorney that you can't do without it. So again, think about it like a key to a door that you need to get inside. You don't need it until you need it. So those are two examples of power of attorney. So those are the way you would get those is you would go to a lawyer, or there's lots of online options, LegalZoom and all kinds of legal forms. So just Google that and you can find it. But the important thing to note is that powers of attorney vary by state. So you will need to have a copy of the power of attorney. By the way, I was going to say that. You need to have a copy. So if your parent has allowed you to be power of attorney, you'll need a copy, because people won't believe you by just walking in saying, hey, I have their power of attorney. You'll have to have a copy and you'll have to send it to whomever needs it. And so it's important to get that done and have it in your back pocket should you need it. Now, why is the state thing important? Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. My father-in-law and mother-in-law moved down here. We moved them here from where they retired in Montana. And when they retired, they got all of their paperwork in order. They got their wills and their Advance Directive and their powers of attorney. And they did all that in the state of Montana. And when we moved my mother and father-in-law down here, my father-in-law was sadly diagnosed with cancer within about a month of him being moved down here. And that it was cancer of the throat. They found a tumor in his throat, and that led to several bouts of aspiration pneumonia. Now, one of the things that the powers of attorney do, well, I was going to talk about Advance Directive as well. I'll get to that in a minute. But the power of attorney for my father-in-law and my mother-in-law was not recognized here in clarity. Now, they might say, yeah, it's a power of attorney, but it's not the same as having it by the state. So when you look up power of attorney, make sure that you are getting a power of attorney for the state in which your elder is living, or where you need to conduct their business, or they're having their medical decisions. So that's power of attorney. The second part of paperwork I want to talk about is Advance Directive. Now, you might have heard of the word living will. Well, living will is a type of Advance Directive, but an Advance Directive basically says to the medical community, I want CPR under these conditions, or I don't want CPR under these conditions. Might also say something like, I would like to be intubated under these conditions, or I would like artificial nutrition under these conditions, or I don't want that under certain conditions. Now, you know, during COVID, they may have a different perspective on intubation. So it's really important to have those up to date. In the state of Colorado, remember the states are important. In the state of Colorado, we use a form called the MOST form as an advance directive. MOST stands for Medical Orders for the Scope of Treatment. Now you can Google MOST form and you can go to Colorado in the Googling, in the selection, and you can get the form. You can download it, fill it out, and have your parents sign it. Their doctor will need it. Anybody that normally cares for them will need it. If they go to a hospital regularly, like say the emergency place where they always go is Lutheran or St. Anthony's, they will need a copy of the advance directive. Sometimes the advance directive is called POST, which is the physician orders for the scope of treatment. So in your parent's state, if they don't live in Colorado, for example, they may have a different name, but it basically is the form for advance directive, and that is MOST or POST. In our state, it's called MOST. I'll give you an example of why that's important to have specific to the state where your elder lives. Again, back to my father-in-law and the aspiration pneumonia. He was in the hospital with aspiration pneumonia, and he had filled out an advance directive that said, I do not want to be intubated. Under no circumstances do I want to be intubated. Well, he started to struggle. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, they intubated him. Now they had a copy of his Montana advance directive. The next morning, the doctor told my husband it was an emergency. I didn't have time to read an advance directive that I'm not familiar with. So we intubated him. Now, whether or not that, I'm not going to go into how all that turned out, but what I will tell you is, boy, did we learn how important it was to have an advance directive that is specific to the state where your elder is being treated or is living. So there's power of attorney, again, financial and medical, advance directive. A living will is really for someone who is terminally ill, and it basically states what's going to happen at their end of life for their choices towards the end of life. Do they want to be on artificial nutrition at the end of life? Do they want to have CPR? That kind of thing. So that's what a living will is. It's a type of advance directive. Now, just to make things interesting, the government doesn't recognize power of attorney. No, I knew it. I knew you would know that the government would have to be different. So what do? Well, they have their own forms, and no, it's not just one. It's different per agency. So the Social Security Administration has their own form. Medicare has their own form. The Veterans Administration has their own form. IRS has their own form. So the word to use when you're going and looking for these forms, and by the way, it's in the resources section of my book. So if you don't have my book, you can go search on the Social Security site for assignment of personal representative. But there is a form specific to that what you're really wanting to be is the personal representative for your elder with one of the government agencies. So let's say you want to talk to them about, you want to talk to Medicare about something that your elder is challenged with. Well, you're going to have their form, and you're going to have to do it. And your parent's going to have to sign it, and you're going to have to send it in. And that's going to have to be recorded in their system before they talk to you. So you just can't go, hey, look, I've got one of these really handy things. You actually have to send it in, and that has to be recorded and in their system before they will talk to you. So again, that's assignment of personal representative. Now, some states have little bitty small versions of power of attorney. Like, for example, in Colorado, there is a form for selling a vehicle. So just specific to selling a vehicle. So if you need to sell their boat, for example, or their car or their ATV, you never know. If you need to sell a vehicle, Colorado has a specific form for that. But I would just encourage you to get a power of attorney because that enables you to do all of the above. So that's the paperwork. Again, it's the bottom of the stool. It's the part that keeps you on the ground. It's the part that keeps you stable. Is it fun? Is it sexy? Is it exciting? No, but it's the key to the room when you need to get in. It's the hall pass when you gotta go, you have to have the hall pass. So paperwork is the part that is critical, that needs to be in place, and especially during COVID, because if you're not with them, you need you need the benefit of being able to speak on their behalf. If you don't want to take them to the bank because you don't want to get them out, you need a power of attorney. If you want to go and get some medical records and take it from one specialist to the other, you got to have a power of attorney. You got to have these things. And if you want to make sure that you don't get your elder out when they don't have to get out, this is your key. Okay, that's the bottom of the stool. Now let's talk about the seat. The seat is the part of the stool that keeps you kind of centered. You know, it keeps you kind of from wobbling. It keeps you going towards the direction you want to go. That is the care conference. Now, let me tell you a little bit about a care conference. A care conference is basically when you and the care providers, and sometimes your elders, they can be in it or not, you talk about what's going on with your elder in terms of their care, where they are right now and where you want them to go. So a care conference can be held at a hospital, it's a hospital setting. It can be held at a rehabilitation facility. It can be held in an assisted living facility, and it can be held at a nursing care facility. It can also be held with your home health care folks. If somebody is taking care of your parents at home, you just definitely want to know how that's going, especially if you can't be there and look at them with your own two eyes. So a care conference is critical because it tells you, hey, where is my parent in the care continuum? Are they needing something? Are they stable? How are their medications going? What's the expectation for symptom management? All those kind of things. Again, it can range the gamut from hospital, which would be a care conference maybe every day or so, right, while they're in the hospital. At a rehabilitation facility, Medicare pays, that's where they go after they leave the hospital. So let's say your parent broke their hip. If your parent broke their hip, they're going to be in the hospital, they're going to get it surgically fixed, and then they're going to go to a rehabilitation facility, sometimes called a rehab facility, sometimes called a skilled nursing facility. Medicare pays for that for 20 days before you have to start chipping in. So in that 20-day period, you're going to want to have a care conference when they first get there, and you're going to want to have a care conference about every week. In assisted living, if your parent is in an assisted living community, you're going to want to have a care conference right when they get there. And then again, as they get settled in. And then after they've been there for a while, you're probably going to want to have it once a quarter, maybe twice a year, but I would really encourage once a quarter. And same for a skilled nursing facility, which is really what we all used to call a nursing home. So on my website, which is theeldercarenavigator.com, I have some forms that are fillable PDF forms. For those of you that really want a cheat sheet, this is called a navigator note. And it's really neat because it tells about care conferences and what to do during a care conference, who should be there. And I'm going to go into that in a minute. And basically what kind of notes you should be taking. So this fillable PDF form is basically just fill it in, have it on your computer while the care conference is going on, fill it in, print it off, and you've got a record of the care conference. So what does that look like? Well, basically it incorporates everybody that would be caring for your elder. And that would be the therapist, speech therapist, occupational therapist, all those kind of people. And it would also be the nurse or the doctor or the nurse practitioner, anybody that would be caring for your elder. Also, maybe even the activities director at an assisted living, to know how they're interacting with your elder. It could be at the hospital. It could be the nurse on staff. It could also be somebody from the food services area, that if there's a particular diet that your parent has to be on. So what you're saying in a care conference is, where is my parent right now? What are the short-term goals? Who's doing what? And what are the long-term goals? And when do we meet next? So again, everybody's there. Everybody has a report. Everybody says where they are. Where are we going in the short term? Where are we going in the long term? Now you can see why this is really important during COVID, because if you can't see them, if you can't be with them, if you can't do all the things that you normally do to get your eyes on them or to check and see that their care is really what it needs to be, a care conference is imperative. So that's the seat in the stool, okay? So we got the seat, we've got the base. Now we got the fun part, it goes round and round and round, okay? That's my favorite part. The round and round and round is how you interact with your parents, how you interact with your elders. What can you do during this crazy mixed up time to actually have a relationship with them? Well, I would suggest that you have a consistent interaction with them that has multiple and frequent touch points. Now, what do you think I mean by that? Well, I mean, instead of taking them 5 Sudoku books over at once and giving them to the front desk or putting them on their front porch or wherever they are, take 2. And then next week, take 2 more. Or in 2 weeks, take 2 more. One of the things that we did with my mother-in-law at her assisted living facility is she cannot exist without chocolate. Cannot exist without chocolate. So we went to Costco and got a big bag of chocolate bars. And so we take them over once a week or once every couple of weeks with a note. Hi, Grandma, love you, thinking of you, that kind of thing. We stick them in with the chocolate and we leave them at the front desk for them to give her. And she texts. Yes, I know, she's 90 and she texts. She loves to text us and tell us how much she doesn't need the chocolate, but loves that we thought of her. But I bet that chocolate is gone the next time we drop off another bag. But things that are fun to interact with them, you know, maybe if you've got an activities director wherever your parent is, those activities directors often have tablets and they do FaceTime meetings. So arrange a FaceTime meeting. Have them set, if you always go over to your parents for Sunday dinner, for example, do a FaceTime with them at 1 or 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Maybe what you could do is go get takeout food, go get their takeout food. Maybe they love chicken and dumplings from their favorite comfort food restaurant. Well, go get chicken and dumplings and take it to the front desk and ask them to give it to your parent, or put it on the front porch of your parent and you get some chicken and dumplings and you sit there and you have a FaceTime meeting with them, or maybe you can watch them through the window or watch them through the screen. But just try to do your best to have a regular kind of relationship, a regular kind of time with them. I would also suggest, go get a box of cards from Kohl's or Walgreens or somewhere and fill out one of those cards every week and just say, hey, this is what I've done this week, or pick out 10 of your favorite pictures. They love you and they love pictures of you. So take a picture of yourself at the top of Mount Bierstadt if you've hiked there recently, and shove that picture in the card Mom, this is me from the top of Mount Bierstadt. And thinking of you, love you, and just drop it in the mail. It doesn't have to be an epistle. Just drop it in the mail. They love mail. We all love mail, but elders really love mail. Then think about email. I have a friend who does a family update email, and everybody gets on the email, and everybody is on the email, and everybody contributes. So they may say something like, Sally got an A on her report card, or Bob got a new job or a new promotion in his job. Those are the kinds of things. Or mom and dad traveled to the grocery store this week and got a curbside delivery. I mean, just something that keeps everybody in touch. Another idea really is to plan something that they can do to share with you. So for example, maybe you could say, what is your favorite Halloween memory, mom or dad or grandma or grandpa? And you write that at the top of the sheet, and you put that sheet in with one of your cards. And you also put an envelope that's got your address, because they don't want to forget your address, and a stamp on it. And let them fill that out and send it back to you. Or get them a box of cards and put a bunch of stamps in there and say, in September, tell me your favorite memory from the fall or Thanksgiving, or something that lets them interact with you so that they're feeling that it is a two-way relationship. Isolation in elders is not a good combination. Isolation is as bad as a physical ailment. And so, a lot of elders were doing really well at first. They're like, anybody can survive a couple months, right? Maybe not having a relationship, not hugging, not going out as they normally do. But, after several months, this is tough. And I know that for your elders, it's really hard. And isolation and depression are a real risk. So find creative ways to interact with them on a consistent basis and multiple touch points. So don't write everything you need them to know in the note. Write what they need to know this week, and then it'll save something for next week. Maybe next week you'll be on another 14er. You never know. So that's the fun part of the stool that goes round and round and round. So let me just say, in wrapping up, that right now is a challenge. It's a challenge for those of us that are caregivers. It's a challenge for our elders and our loved ones. It's a challenge for any people that are working in the care community to care for your elders. Don't forget them. I have a really good blog on taking care of the staff. It's called Surprise the Staff. By the way, check out my blog. Lots of different topics. You can go to my website, theeldercarenavigator.com, and subscribe to my blog. I usually blog about once a month, so I'm not overwhelming you. But you can go back and look at my past blogs, and it might work for something that you're dealing with right now. But don't forget the staff. If they're caring for your elder, they're amazing. They're heroes in my book. In the front of my mother-in-law's assisted living is a big banner that says heroes work here. And I typically take them something about once a month. I call and say, hey, what do you need? During the middle of our shutdown, they couldn't let anybody in to fill the employee vending machine. So the head of the nursing said to me, they don't have any snacks. So I went and got a big bunch of snacks and dropped them off for them. So it's things like that you can do to say, hey, you are doing an amazing job and I value you, because remember, these people are not getting paid at the CEO level. I guarantee you. It's hard work. It's tough work. And right now it's really risky work. So don't forget the staff. So now that you've got your stool and you can spin around and around and around and entertain yourself for a while, make sure you think about the paperwork. Make sure you think about having a care conference when you need it. Make sure that you have consistent attention to a relationship with your elder with frequent touch points. So I hope that you guys will put up some questions in the chat box, because I'd love to answer them. And I'm just excited that we had this opportunity. And again, thanks to Ralston Creek Co-Housing for making this opportunity available.
Oh, thank you so much, Suzanne. This was just so informative. I had to write down a bunch of notes, and I know I'm going to be popping on your blog. So if you're just dropping in, welcome to our live event. I'm Joan with Ralston Creek Co-Housing in Arvada, Colorado. And Suzanne is an elder care expert. She's been presenting on caring for our elders during COVID. And now we invite you to share your comments and questions in the chat box. If you have any specific need for a resource, Suzanne will be happy to respond to you by email. So you can email her at suzanne@suzanneblankenship.com. And she'll provide you with some resources in the Denver area. So the first question I have for you, Suzanne, is Colorado may be opening nursing homes and assisted living centers for visitors. We heard something about this on the news. Can you share more about that?
Well, I can share more, but it's basically a confusing directive. So let me just take a little bit of time to say that what we have been doing is allowing outside visits. So you could visit with your elder if everybody's wearing a mask. You could visit outside. You could maybe go out to the outside patio and visit that way. Now, right in the next probably week or so, they're going to be forming up more specifics about how inside visits can happen. But let me just tell you right now what the directives are. Basically, you have to have had a COVID negative test within the prior 24 hours. That's kind of a burden that is a challenge, because if you don't have the results in a quick way, a quick manner, then you're going to be not going to be able to visit. But that's one of the things that you have to, one of the requirements is a negative COVID test within the previous 24 hours. Also, when you go in and visit, you have to visit in an open room. So you can't visit with your elders in their room or in a small closed space. It has to be a specifically designated large open room. It's also limited to 2 hours, and you need an appointment. So I don't know, Joan, the hard part of all this is how are you going to thread that needle of a negative COVID test in the last 24 hours, make an appointment, and do all of that within a specified time. But, and it's up to the individual assisted living or skilled nursing community in order to specify what they would ask for in addition to those things. So while it is possible, to me, it's kind of a real situation where you would have to really need to be there.
Sue, do you have other questions in the chat? And while Sue's checking, I'll ask another question of you, Suzanne. Can you tell us a little bit about the specific government forms that are helpful in establishing power of attorney?
Well, I will. So everybody will need to get their pen and pencil for this one, okay? So, because, you know, they can't make it real easy, but it is possible. So the Social Security Administration, if you go to socialsecurity.gov and you enter in the little search box SSA, 1696. Again, that's SSA 1696. That's the form that allows you to speak to Social Security on behalf of your elder. Now, Medicare has also got a form. Remember, I told you everybody's different. Medicare's form is CMS, which you know is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. CMS 10106. So again, CMS 10106. And that allows disclosure of information to you as their personal representative. The VA likes to be different, so they've got two forms. The VA form to allow them to disclose information to you, or you to disclose information to them, is VA 21-0845. Again, that's VA 21-0845. Now, if you need medical records from the VA, you have to have a form VA 10-5345. VA 10-5345. That is the request to release medical records. So if you needed a medical record, for example, from the VA and take it to a primary care physician, for example, and you wanted to do that without your parent, you would need that form. But again, assignment of personal representative. That you'll need if you want to understand at any of the, the railroad retirement, the IRS, all those folks, they all have different forms, but it's assignment of personal representative. So there you go. There'll be a quiz on that in 10 minutes.
Thanks, Suzanne. We have a question from Lori, and she wants to know, when do you suggest putting together a living will?
Well, remember, the living will is really a form that addresses care for a terminally ill patient. So I would suggest that if your loved one is going to be going on hospice, that would be when you would want to make sure they had a living will. Now, I have a real handy dandy form here, or article that I just Googled about how to Advance Directive differs from a living will. And it's on Asset. It's on Smart Asset. And that really goes into specifics of a living will. But you can basically assure that hospice will want that, and you'll want that if your loved one is entering hospice. Now, if perhaps you're talking about Advance Directive, I would say now. Everybody needs an Advance Directive. We all need an Advance Directive, because especially during this time of COVID, if you do not want CPR and something happens to you and somebody takes you to the hospital, you need an Advance Directive that says, I don't want CPR. And so it's really important to have those Advance Directives up to date, because there's a spot on the most form that allows you to say in which circumstances I would want intubation and in which circumstances I would not. So that is just really important that we all have one. But I would say right now, we all need to have one, and we need to have one now.
Thank you so much. We do have another question. It's from Lori. How do you suggest staying in touch with Alzheimer's patients during COVID? Talking to them is hard.
Talking to Alzheimer's, anyone living with dementia, is a challenge on any given day. It's really challenging when they don't understand what's happening with COVID. My mother-in-law is living with dementia. It's not Alzheimer's, but she's living with dementia. And every time we go over and we have the distance visit outside, she doesn't understand why we can't come in. And she says, you know, I don't have the virus. I'm fine. And we say, we know, but we don't want you to get the virus. It's really important that we stay this far apart. So opportunities to talk with people who are living with dementia really need to be in the moment. People living with dementia really need to direct the conversation, not you. So for example, if you want to talk to someone who's living with dementia about today, you need to check in with them and make sure they are present in today. They may be thinking about the 1940s. They may be thinking about the 1970s. And if they direct you that direction, that's where you should talk. You should not talk to anyone with dementia about, remember this, Mom? Remember that? Or I just told you why we have to wear a mask. Because they don't remember. So the people that are living with dementia need to direct the conversation. So I would start out with, how's it going? What have you been doing? What are you watching on TV right now or these days? Or have you been noticing what's going on with the weather? It's been crazy lately. Just check in with them to make sure that what you're saying to them is where they are. I will tell you, the Alzheimer's Association, especially the Alzheimer's Association of Colorado, has got some wonderful virtual support groups. And if you email me at Suzanne@SuzanneBlankenship.com, I've got the schedule for their caregiver support. You can also find it on their website at alz.org, alz.org. And you look in Colorado and they do have their caregiver support, but they've got all of their classes are online right now. And there is just a plethora of support. Another place for great support is Teepa Snow. Her name is Teepa, T-E-E-P-A, Snow. And you can Google her. She's got lots of resources for ways to interact and successful relationship starters, conversation starters, relationship tips and guidance for dealing with folks that living with dementia. So there are a lot of resources out there. And I would just encourage you, anytime you're dealing with someone who's living with dementia, you deal with them in their moment and you allow them to drive where the conversation is going.
Thank you, Suzanne. We have a question. Do you have information in your book on how to select a care facility for a loved one?
I do. In my book, you know, everything is, I touch everything with some humor because you have to laugh when you're walking this journey or you would cry every day. That's my secret to keeping a few marbles. And so I do have a chapter. It's called Finding a Place to Park Them. And it's everything I do is tongue in cheek. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to make anyone uncomfortable, but it's chapter 6 called Finding a Place to Park Them. I also have a blog that is really specific about choosing a place, a residence, a community that's appropriate for your elder. And it's called the 5 Cents Solution. Again, the 5 Cents Solution. And you can find that on my blog. If you go to the eldercarenavigator.com/blog, or just go to the eldercarenavigator.com, and there is a tab on the top that says blog. Click on that, and there's a search box, and you can search for the 5-Sense solution, SENSE. And basically, I talk about using your 5 senses as the best way to find the best place for your elder. But yes, my book does have a chapter on it. Thanks for that question, by the way.
Okay. We do have one last question.
Okay, great.
How do you know when someone is ready for assisted living?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, really what you're going to be evaluating in that situation is, are they safe? Are they safe where they are? And can they continue to be safe where they are? Now, one of the things that determines safety is, are they going to be a threat to themselves or to someone else by continuing to live where they are? And that really is the gamut of, are they safe physically? Are there stairs? Are there tripping hazards? Can they get in and out of the tub? From there to, are they making meals? Are they making nutritional meals for themselves? Are they eating? You know, my mother-in-law, she's a social eater. And one of the things that was flagged to us was she wasn't eating. We'd go grocery shopping and we'd look in the refrigerator once a week and she wasn't eating. So one of her care providers, we actually asked to please eat with her, because that was something that she would do if someone else was there. But both my mother and my mother-in-law had enormous renaissance when they moved to assisted living, and they had other people to eat with. They had regular meals. Someone cooked the meals, but it really wasn't the cooking. It was really the actual socialization of hey, there's a meal, I'm going to go eat it. And they had a renaissance. Another point to consider is medication. Are they taking their medication appropriately? I have a funny story about that, but I won't go into that right now. That's another time. But anyway, if they're not taking their medication appropriately, if they don't take their thyroid medication in the morning before they have anything to eat, then they're not doing it right. So that's an example of, are they doing the medication? That would be, are they safe there with the medication? Another item is, are they forgetting to do things like lock the door? Are they forgetting to care for themselves if they have a wound, or if they're diabetic, or if they have a heart condition? My mother-in-law, we got her when she was living alone, and she was getting home health care, but it wasn't 24/7. We got her one of those panic alarm buttons that she could push. And that helps them at times to be in a place where you feel like they're going to be safe. But she fell, and because she has dementia, she forgot to push the button. So, you know, that's another issue. But how do you tell? You really use the concept of safety. And are they being safe? Are they safe where they live? Are they safe from harm? Are they safe from themselves? And will they maintain that safety and be able to maintain that safety going forward? Great question. Also talk about that a little in the book.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Suzanne. This has been a great session. I really enjoyed your ideas and what you brought to it. And thanks, folks, for joining us. You've heard Suzanne speaking about elder care. You can find her links on her website, contact information about her books, her blogs. So check out our chat to find all the links in there. I'm a member of Ralston Creek Co-Housing Community. You can also find links to our website, our Facebook page, and our newsletter in the chat. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about co-housing. We have a lovely piece of land on the Ralston Creek Trail, and we plan a net zero sustainable building. We've sold about 9 of our condo homes so far, and we have some condos available yet. So we hope to be breaking ground in the spring. So we're really excited about that. If you'd like to learn more about Ralston Creek, we have an introduction to Ralston Creek Co-Housing virtually on Thursday, September 17 at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. And we also have a virtual happy hour on Tuesday, September 22nd. So if you sign up for our newsletter or follow our Facebook page, you'll hear about all the activities that we do over time. We have something every month, and we'd love to see you. Suzanne, was there anything follow-up that you would like to say around contacting you?
Well, thank you so much, Joan. I have a lot of resources, both nationally, regionally, state resources, Jeffco resources if you're here in Jefferson County with us. I have lots of resources. If you want something specific or have a specific question, please email me, but I would encourage you to go on my website and check out my blog, sign up for my blog. If you want a book that I have signed personally, you can get that on my website. You can also download my PDF forms. They're $5. And you can also get my book at Wheat Ridge Pharmacy if you're here in the Jefferson County area, Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. Go to your local bookstore. They can order it as well. So lots of ways to get it, lots of information. Do not do this journey by yourself. Do not. Make sure you find resources. Make sure that you are getting all the support that you can get, because this is a tough journey and it is a marathon, not a sprint. Have a great one, everybody.
Yes. Thank you, folks. And thanks for joining us, and have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.